All right, so let's look at the first one. So we have the two fractions that we're adding, and we realize we have different types of denominators. So one way to simplify these types of fraction is to combine the denominators by way of multiplication. And so we're going to multiply 5x by x minus 2, and this we're going to treat as our LCM. Now, as usual, we always ensure when we add in our subtracting fraction, we take the LCM and divide by the denominator, and the answer we get, we multiply by the numerator. So what happens when we do that? 5x times x minus 2, which is the LCM, divided by the denominator of 5x. What will happen there? And so the 5x goes into itself once, 5x goes into itself once, and we're left with x minus 2. And it's this x minus 2 that we multiply by the numerator of 2. And so we'll say 2 times that x minus 2. And so can we see what happened? We take the LCM divided by the denominator, and so 5x cancel out 5x, therefore leaving us with x minus 2, which we multiply by 2, as we can see here. Our next step is put by the plus, and we're going to repeat the same thing. This time we're going to divide the LCM by x minus 2. And what do you think will happen? That's right. X minus 2 will cancel out this x minus 2, leave us with 5x, and 5x times 3 will be the next part of the numerator. Let's do that. So we're going to take the LCM, which is 5x times x minus 2, which we have here, divided by this x minus 2. All right, so we're going to take this divided by this x minus 2. And what will happen? Every quantity is a factor of itself. Every quantity is a factor of itself. So x minus 2 into itself goes once. And the answer we get, or quotient we get, is 5x, which we multiply by 3. So it's 3 times 5x. All right, so clearing up all those side work and simplifying the numerator, we have the 5x minus times x minus 2 as the denominator. And we want to distribute using distributive law, the 2. And so we say 2 times x will give us 2x. And 2 times negative 2 will give us negative 4. While 3 times 5x will give us 15x. And so our final solution will be, grouping the like terms, we have 2x plus 15x, which give us what? 17x. We're at minus 4. And of course, our denominators as well, we can write back. And since we cannot simplify that any further, then... Alright, so let's look at part B. So pause the video, have a go at B, and then we'll compare our solutions. You have 2 minutes. Alright, let's go. Again, we have unknown in the denominator, so we're going to just simply combine the denominators. And then we're going to divide the LCM, which is a combined denominator by way of multiplication, by the first denominator. And of course, you can see that this x minus 1 will cancel this x minus 1, leaving us with 5. And so we'll say what? 2 times 5. Next, we will also divide the LCM again, which is a 5 times x minus 1, by this 5. And what will happen? This 5 will cancel out this 5, and we're left with x minus 1. And so our solution there will be what? 3 times x minus 1. But of course, in your working, you do not want to have these crossing out the quantities that you have, because they're part of the solution. All right, but let's go over this one more time. So again, we took the LCM, which is the 5 times x minus 1, and we divide it by what? We divide it by the denominator of x minus 1. And so what happened is that this is a factor, x minus 1 goes once, into this factor, x minus 1. Every quantity is a factor of itself. And so we're left with 5. And with what we do with that 5, that quotient, that result, we multiply by the numerator, as you can see, 2 times 5. So we also do the same thing. We also do the same thing with the other denominator. We take the LCM of 5 times x minus 1 and divide by the denominator. and the same thing happens. This is a factor. 5 cancels out with this 5. And so we're left with x minus 1. Now, why am I saying factor? Because as long as you're multiplying two quantities, each of those quantities are factors of the product. And so once you have factored form, in numerator and denominator, you can cancel. And you notice in the denominator, we only have one quantity. Well, it's a factor of itself. So that makes it a factor. And so we're able to cancel factor with factor, and we're left with x minus 1. And that answer we get, we multiply by the numerator, which is 3. So it's 3 times x minus 1. And so now we can go ahead and simplify the numerator. And so 2 times 5, 2 times 5, and then 3 times x, and then 3 times negative 1. So 2 times 5 give us 10, 3 times x give us 3x, and 3 times negative 1 give us negative 3. Writing back the denominator of 5 times x minus 1, we have the result 3x. So we want to put the x terms first. So we're going to write 3x since that's the only x term we have. And the like terms, which we group together, as in the 10 and the minus 3. 10 minus 3 is 7. And so it's positive 7. So we want to write positive 7 here. And write back the denominator of 5 times x minus 1. And so this will be our solution. So for part C, we have the quantity 4 divided by the quantity x plus 1 added to 3 over 1 minus x. So we have two fractions. Now again, since we have variables in the denominator, we can just simply multiply the denominators and treat it as our LCM. And so what we're going to do, as usual, we take the LCM and divide it by the denominator, and then multiply that by the numerator. So let's go ahead and do that. So again, once we're going to do that, we recognize that this x plus 1 will cancel out x plus 1, and we have 1 minus x as our multiplier for 4. And so that will give us 4 times 1 minus x. Let's see how that goes. Should we do it here as side work? The LCM x plus 1 by 1 minus x divided by the denominator of x plus 1. And so this is a factor since we're multiplying two quantities. So this is a factor, and it will cancel with this number, our quantity, which is a factor of itself. And so we're left with 1 minus x, which we'll multiply by the 4, as we can see right here. Okay, so remember, in your working, you do not want to cancel out these, right? These are all necessary in your solution. The side work is where you will show your cancellation if necessary. Okay, so let's go ahead. Again, we'll do the same thing. We're going to take this LCM and divide by the 1 minus x. Now, what will happen there? Can you guess what the result will be, the quotient will be? Well, 1 minus x goes into itself once, and it goes into this once, and so we're left with x plus 1, which you'll multiply by the 3. And so you'll have 3 times what's remaining, x plus 1. All right? And when I say remaining, it's really the quotient, the result from division, not really like a remainder or anything. Okay, so again, we don't want to trouble this. This is us trying to go the short way of explaining it, but let's go through the long route, which is to show you that we take the LCM, which is the denominator here, and divide by 1 minus x. So let's do that here. The LCM divided by 1 minus x. And since these are in factored form, this will cancel as a factor into itself once, into itself once. And so we're left with x plus 1, which will multiply by the 3. And as you can see, 3 times x plus 1. Good. So once you get that, you know that you can actually do that in your head. And so what we need to do now is to simplify this, the numerator. So let's simplify the numerator now using what? Yes, that's correct, the distributive property. So it's 4 times 1, then 4 times x. What is 4 times 1? That's correct, 4, minus 4 times x, which is 4x. Then we're going to say 3 times x, which will give us 3x, and 3 times 1 will give us 3. Now we want to group the like terms. Lack of space, I'll just do that in my head. So it's going to be 4 plus 3, which will give us what? 7. And let's work out the other terms now. Now you might be saying, why am I putting the constant term first? Why not the variable term x? Well, a lot of times you will see solutions and they will have the negative term last, no matter what it is. So just because this will end up being a negative, we want to put it last. Instead of having a negative x plus 7, we'll have 7 minus x. So negative 4x plus 3x will be negative x. Why negative x? Think about it. We have negative 4 plus 3. These are like terms, by the way. Negative 4 plus 3. All right? Opposite signs you subtract. So 3 from 4 give you 1. Right? Give you 1. And since we're dealing with x, we provide the x. And since we have more negatives than positive, it'd be negative x, negative 1x. But we don't need the 1 there. So we can just simply say 7 minus x. All right? Minus x plus 7, if you have that, that's fine. But most times, they prefer to have the positive term in front. So 7 minus x over the denominator of x plus 1, 1 minus x. And this will be our final solution. All right, so before we go, we want to work out these. What we need to do is to find the LCM, right? We want to find the LCM, which is what? Which is actually 12. 3 into 12 goes 4 times. 4 times what? The numerator of 5p plus 2. 4 into 12 goes 3 times. 3 times what? The numerator of 3p minus 1. You may stop the video, replay it, and see what we just did a while ago. So we're now going to use distributive property. 4 times 5p will give us 20p. 4 times 2 gives us 8. We're also going to use distributive property for the last bracket. The term immediately outside by each term inside by way of multiplication. So negative 3 times 3p, that will be negative 9p. And negative 3 times negative 1, that's positive 3. Put back the 12. And simplifying the numerator, let's use the variable p's first. So we're going to have 20p minus 9p. And that will give us what? That will give us 11p. What about the other one? So we're going to look at 8 plus 3. And that will give us 11 as well. So that says it's going to be positive 11. Looking at these quantities, we cannot simplify that any further because these are all unlike terms. And so this is our solution. And pause the video, have a go at it, and we can discuss the solution. So what we're going to do, we're going to find the LCM, which is 15. 3 goes into 15 5 times. 5 times what? The numerator of 3. So it must be the corresponding numerator to the denominator. So 3 into 15 goes 5 times the numerator. 5 15 goes 3 times, so it's 3 times the numerator. And then we multiply out the brackets by way of distributive law. And so we say 5 times 7, then 5 times negative 2. 5 times 7 give us 35x, since we have an x term here, and 5 times 2 give us negative 10. There's no x in the 5 and the 2, so we should have no x in the negative 10. And now we have 3 here. Remember, it's 5 goes into 15 3 times, so 3 times what we have as the numerator. Now, because we have a minus here, this becomes negative 3 in our multiplication. So negative 3 times positive 4x. A negative number by a positive number is negative, and 3 4 is 12, but it's 12x, since this is an x term here. Negative 3 times negative 1, all constants, so our answer should be a constant. So negative 3 times negative 1 would be a positive 3, because negative times negative will be positive. Put back the denominator, and then we simplify our numerator. And so what we're going to say is that we have 35x minus 12x. So we group in like terms, 35x minus 12x. And of course, that will be 23x. Next, we're going to group the constants. So it's negative 10 plus 3. And of course, they have different signs, so we subtract. And so 3 from 10 give us 7. And since we have more negatives, our answer could be a negative. So it's 23x minus 7 over 15 as our solution. And so our final solution is 23x minus 7 over 15. All right, so here's the homework. Have a go at it. If you find yourself struggling, you can always watch parts of the video that deal with these concepts. It was definitely great going through these questions.